Hey everyone, welcome to the Path of Me. Happy New Year. It's January 2020. I'm so excited to start the year off with my beautiful friend, Melissa McCloud. Welcome, Melissa. Thanks for joining
me. Thanks, Wendy.
All the way from
My
Sri
pleasure.
Lanka. All the way from Sri Lanka. So our internet's kind of wonky, so if she freezes up or, bear with us. We're doing the best, or it could just be our energy shorting out the picture.
We're going to manifest just a smooth connection.
Smooth connection all the way. But Melissa's an incredible coach, so motivational, so inspiring. You guys are going to get so many great tips from her today. But before we dive into the new year and everything that's coming up, I want to say hi, Melissa. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time so
I'm
much.
Flattered. Thanks for reaching out.
You're my kickoff guest, so I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
Me too.
I was curious about last year. So much happens in a year, so much growth. And we actually closed out a whole decade because 2019 actually closed out a 10-year cycle from 2010. So I wanted to ask you two questions. One was, who are you now compared to who you were 10 years ago? Huge change, I know, I'm sure, an evolution. And the second thing is, what were some of the pivotal growth moments for you in 2019? So
wow, I feel like
questions.
this is going to be like a therapy session.
Oh gosh.
Oh, wow.
Well, it can be if you want.
So much happened. Who are you? Wow. It is a big deal starting a new decade. And, connecting with you periodically has been so good. It's almost like going to the dentist. I need to go to the dentist. I need to check with Wendy. It's like my checkup, my tune-in. And we talked about, when we first connected on Path to Me, I had done my bikini show, was getting ready to move abroad. And then it was this check-in after I had done those things. And now it's a whole different space for me. So this is really wonderful. So thank you for causing me to dig deep and really talk about these things. So a couple years ago, I had big ass goals, and I was talking and teaching, having big ass goals. I did a bodybuilding show. I wanted to move abroad with my family, and I did. These were really big things. And I was living with such a sense of urgency, just urgency. And 2018 was definitely a year of putting it out there and attracting what I wanted and going with the flow. And it was really an exciting year for me. And what I thought I wanted, which was living abroad, turned out to be not at all like what I thought it was going to look like. And so 2019 was this year of going with the flow and learning to get really specific when you want to manifest things, because if you don't watch out, you'll get what you ask for.
Well,
and I got exactly what I asked for.
Sometimes you get what you ask for, but it's never in the expected form. Never. Right? Like there's always a twist. If you're not like so specific, there's always like a twist. And so what were some of the things that kind of surprised you about moving to Sri Lanka?
It was like this desire to understand the human condition, not want to raise entitled kids in an affluent suburb in the United States. And then here I end up on the biggest adventure of my life in a developing country, surviving a terrorist attack, having to take care of my own mental health. Like, talk about adventure, talk about human condition. Right. Like I checked all the boxes, but not in any way that I wanted. Wanting my kids to have this life experience, but I got it. I needed it. It wasn't for them. Kids are kids, and
they're so resilient.
They take things in stride, way more so.
They're like you always say, they're raising us, right? They teach us.
Yeah.
And they really weathered that terrorist attack. And so for those of you who don't know, there was a bombing in it was in your community. Wasn't that far from you, right?
On Easter Sunday in Colombo, Sri Lanka, there was a coordinated attack, 6 bombings. We heard them, we saw them, and we knew people affected. And anyway, it was definitely the biggest trial of my life going through that. And then the uncertainty and where are we going to live? And we were evacuated, and this holding pattern in Singapore. What was my husband's company going to do with us? We're here for his career. And deciding to take my kids back to California, and then the uncertainty again, are we going to be able to return? And then getting to the point where I really did want to return, and spending the summer in therapy, and accepting that even as positive, and that's definitely my persona, perpetually positive, I could still suffer from something.
We're
like
still
PTSD.
Human, right? We're still human. And I think,
goodness.
Right, that's one of the things that we forget, I think, when we're on this journey to kind of mentor and inspire others. And we hold ourselves to this really high standard. Sometimes things happen in life just to remind us, oh yeah, we have really bad days sometimes too, and we're human, and we break down, and there are things in life that bring us to our knees, and they're all, I feel, by design, because we rise stronger if we go through these experiences. They're not ever what we expect, right?
Never. I mean, for someone with my background, growing up with a really charmed life, the only people I lost were relatives of old age. You know, it was something that was so foreign to me.
Yeah.
And going through that hardship and feeling like now I'm better and able to be the mom and the wife and the coach that I want to be, having gone through it, it almost sounds sick. It's like I'm grateful for it. It was so devastating, and there's certainly people that are still affected and rebuilding their lives. So many victims or people that are newly blind or newly deaf and new amputees, that kind of thing.
Yeah, those are major life changes. But I think when you go through something so traumatic, there's so much soul growth that happens. There's so much growth that happens when we face adversity and we're brought to our knees.
Yeah.
First of all, we're completely humbled. Completely. And we've really, when we're brought that far down, I think we really face ourselves and find out what's really important to us, what's really of value in our lives. Because when everything's going great, it's so easy to be on our A game, right? It's so easy to get up in the morning and crank out that motivational podcast or inspire your trophy group. We'll talk about them a little bit later, or whatever it is you're doing. But then, you know, when you have these real life things, especially a terrorist attack, that's got to really rock your world.
Indeed. And I feel like it's because I was operating from such a sense of urgency, like setting these big goals and achieving them. And even with my coaching business targets, hitting the 6-figure mark, I was approaching those things with so much urgency. And now I'm so much more easygoing about how it's all unfolding and less stressed about it. I was placing a lot of stress on myself for achieving what I thought was success as fast as possible. And now it's like, I'm totally okay not operating from that point.
I think the definition of success shifts a little bit, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
For
me, it was really about money, prestige, how I was perceived by other people, my online branding, how I looked.
Right.
And now it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do my thing and do what I love to do. And I had a friend recently give me really good coaching. So I'm building an online brand as a coach for women. I want to be a leader in the women's movement. And you can follow all these different branding experts that tell you to do this in your newsletter and your blog or your podcast. You're going to have a YouTube, you're going to do Facebook, you're going to do Instagram. And my friend who's also a dear coach said, well, what do you really, really like to do? And why don't you just be doing those things?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's so mind blowing. Why am I running around trying to do these things that are supposedly what I
think the key is authenticity, right?
Yeah, I feel like that word's thrown around a lot, but
it
encapsulates it so well.
Well, I'm glad you're in that space, because when you kind of step back and chill a little bit, you're going to find you're going to get into this flow. You know, things will start flowing, and you'll be surprised at how productive you are and how these opportunities come and how things grow when you're you're kind of more in a Zen state,
I'm
state of
looking forward to
mind.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty pivotal. That's a pretty
Thank you.
pivotal shift.
So that, to answer your question in a long roundabout way, I went from operating this state of urgency, setting my goals and going after big goals. And while I still think goals are important and give us direction, I'm definitely a lot less go, 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 make it happen. Come on, what's your problem? Let's go. Definitely a lot less like that.
Right.
And with that comes not beating yourself up as much, which I think is real freedom. So just letting it unfold as it unfolds. I don't like need this for the money. And that is a really good space to approach things. And even if you do, it's good to separate yourself from that.
I think sometimes we over-identify our value with our income.
100%. I didn't learn that those things were mutually exclusive until like maybe my mid-30s. Absolutely. That's a huge thing for people.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And I think one of the things I'm really trying to get people to think about is your core value is inherent. You're already everything you need to be. You're already magnificent, and our society is so programmed to define people by their exterior, but we already have this beautiful spark inside of us that's just glowing and powerful and magic, and everything's possible for everyone. But people forget to turn in, they're always out there chasing,
Agreed.
Chasing, hustling. So that's really amazing that you guys weathered that entire storm, found your way back to Sri Lanka, got the kids resettled in school. You've been taking some amazing trips with them and giving them all of these amazing experiences that is going to shape their worldview in such a powerful way. So what a gift to be able to offer that to your children.
It really is special to be here. I want to really maximize the opportunities we have to see this part of the world while we're here and why it's so easy to do.
Yeah. So tell me how far you've come or how you've changed from 10 years ago. We've closed out this decade. I mean, so much growth in just 1 year, but gosh, 10.
Yeah, 2019 was a lot of milestones. So last year I turned 40 and I had my 10-year wedding anniversary. So those were definitely two big milestones.
Yeah.
Definitely. And 2009, I was newly engaged in January, got married in September, turned 30 a week before I got married. I mean, it was a huge year for me. I was in a space of love and bliss and excited about my future. I was leaving pharmaceutical sales to go full-time with Herbalife, and
that took a leap of faith.
That
must have taken a big leap of faith to leave a corporate, solid, consistent income and jump into something that was, I know you were super passionate about, but you didn't have like any guarantees there either. So that was pretty bold.
Well, funny that you say that. So my career started in pharmaceutical sales. It was my first job out of college. I really felt like I was bad at it. I didn't have great sales numbers.
I can't imagine you being
never
bad
got
at
FaceTime. Got very little FaceTime with doctors and just felt ineffective. Felt like when you're waiting 45 minutes to have a 10-second conversation with a doctor, and here I am, this new college graduate, thinking I'm going to change the world or at least impact diabetic health, which was the department I was in. That was, it was a poor fit. So I had found Herbalife several years before that and had already quit my job to do it full time. And the method I was using in, let's say 2007, 2008 was definitely affected by the economy. And the smart decision at the time for me was to go back to pharmaceutical sales. So this was the second time I was able to quit my job to pursue Herbalife full time. The first time I see now, and it took me years to recognize this, was I quit my job prematurely when the first time I quit pharmaceutical sales to do Herbalife full time. I should have hung in there a little bit longer to have more of a safety net. But the second time I was able to walk away from my job and do Herbalife full time, I had built the business so much more stably, had such a better foundation. of retail clients and team members that it was a smart decision. So that it actually was not hard to leave that job.
Well,
and,
experience, you also had the experience under your belt, which helps. Right?
Yeah. And of course, being newly married, I was able to get on my husband's health insurance. So that helped,
Huge.
Those were things that I had traditionally been paying for myself. And yeah, so it was just a different timing. And yeah.
It's amazing what happens in our marriages and relationships as we check off these decades, right? As time goes by, we really evolve. It's really something to evolve together too. It's really easy to drift apart. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I've been really grateful for, and I'm sure you are too, that you're evolving together and sharing some of the same long-term goals, the same family values, and the things that are really helping you guys create a solid foundation for your kids.
Thank you. We just did our goals together on Sunday. I've been walking the women in my coaching group through a really deliberate goal setting process throughout the beginning of this year, where we didn't even actually sit down and do the goals until this weekend, because I was having them do the pre-work, working on ourselves, evaluating the last year, the last decade, coming up with their core values, so that when they set the goals, they were aligned with what actually matters to us.
That's huge.
So it wasn't until this last weekend. Thank you. I'm really excited about the process.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I felt like it was real smart. Like, we set these goals that sound really good. We want a new car. We want a new job. We want to change our relationship. We want to lose weight. Like, we all set goals that we can get excited about because they sound good. And then the statistics are
do they reflect our core values? What's really important to us, right?
Right. And of course, they're so hard to achieve. Of course, losing weight is like so hard, because the goal to lose 10, 20, 50 pounds, it's actually not that meaningful. And so this year I went about it so differently. In fact, my last podcast was the last goal setting exercise you'll ever need, because there's so much pre-work involved in setting goals that matter, but it's time well spent if people are willing to do it.
I love that you're unpacking that, because I don't think people really put that much thought into it.
No,
they kind of
do what sounds good.
Sit down, create the vision board with all those glossy pictures, and like, yeah, I want that tropical vacation. Yeah, I want, and you do want it, but also I think it's so much more impactful and powerful when you're aligning with your truth and your authentic core values, like you're talking about. So what a great,
100%.
That's tip number one, people. When you're doing your goals this year, really get present with who you are and what's important to you, right? Before you put that out there.
And not what sounds good, because then it's going to be like pulling teeth, getting you to actually make progress on the goal. But if it's something that you want it in your heart, it's so much easier to take action.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you don't even really need to take a lot of action. It's things that
it's kind of you're drawing it to you because you're so resonant and it's so heart-based, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a really, really great tip. Tip number one from Melissa McCloud. Get real clear about
deliberately set goals.
Get clear about who you are and what's important, right?
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about your trophy group. What's the core value for it? What is your mission statement? What are you trying to achieve with your online group, the trophies? And we should let people know that it is available to anyone.
For any women. It's at thetrophies.co. It leads you to a free Facebook group. It's totally free for any woman. It's a community for women. And I call the ladies trophies because we are such a gift. Women, you are such a prize. And we just need to polish our trophies a little bit. But trophies come in all different shapes and sizes, and everyone is whole, perfect, complete. There's no like work to be done. You're already there. I love
that. And
so in the trophies, we do a different focus every single month. For example, this month was setting 2020 intentions, and we take a deep dive into that month's topic. And I usually share a book that you might want to read that goes along with the topic. And then I bring in a guest expert. And we've done months on money and money mindset. We've done months on Cone Marie and home organization. I've brought in home organization experts and Cone Marie consultants and read Cone Marie books. Months on communication, relationships, etc. So each month there's this overarching overarching topic. And then day to day, it's a really fun and light community, a place to explore a lot of self-inquiry.
I bet
There's
a lot of
sharing.
topics come up on the Facebook page, right? I mean, it's great to have these community forums where people can really talk and support each other and identify
And it's in like a safe space where
yes, a
the
sacred
private
space.
group, and
yes.
I mean, having it be only women is just so special right off the bat. And then I'm always giving people prompts for discussions, and I'm sharing a lot of humor. So I would say the vibe in the group is it's fun. I don't want self-help to be this heavy thing. Let's sit on a therapist couch every week for
and
years.
unpack stuff forever.
What's wrong with us? Right.
Yes.
Like the past is the past.
Right.
Now we're all 18. We're in charge of our lives. We're in the driver's seat. So let's get to where we really want to go and acknowledge that happened. And we can certainly take things.
So how do people join? If people want to join, do they just go on your Facebook page or do they
Facebook group? And there's just a couple questions. If you want to join, I want to know you're a lady. And then I invite you to access my email newsletter. I have a freebie right now. It's my Super Mom Survival Guide. So it's how moms can survive in a modern household. It's never been more demanding. Taking more resources to run a household or be in a partnership as it does today. It's no wonder moms are stressed, overwhelmed, anxious.
Right.
So
it's exhausting. It's exhausting, right? I mean, especially
it doesn't have to be, but it often is. Yeah. And I would say a lot of the mom groups that I'm in it delves into like the negative and the victim and the poor me and the things my husband's not doing. And because I know this is the conversation, I created Husband Rehab, which I shared with you the last time we were chatting. This is an online course any woman can take, any man can take it, but it's definitely geared towards women.
Right.
And if women feel that they married the right guy, but this is not what they signed up for, then Husband Rehab is definitely for them.
And is that through the trophies? Do you find that through the trophy group, or do they?
I launched it first to the trophies only. So you had to be a trophy to enroll in Husband Rehab. And I limited it to 10 women. And the women went through the course and they were my guinea pigs. And
I bet they loved it.
Great feedback.
I bet they loved it.
But they also gave me a lot of good feedback. So I was able to tweak it. So I re-recorded the entire course.
Wow.
After those first 10 women went through, and I relaunched it. So one of the things, to answer your first question, I was talking about like the urgency, when people launch things on social media, yes, you can do a huge launch. You can promote it and put lots of money into advertising, so many different ways to go about a launch. That was making me so overwhelmed because the time I was launching it, it was just after Thanksgiving, US Thanksgiving, right in the middle of the holidays. And here I was trying to get my act together to do a launch right at the new year. And I was also doing what many moms do in the Western world. I was making all this magical shit happen for my kids to have an awesome Christmas. It was too much. And we were traveling.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to do a launch. And so what I did was I recorded a webinar that teaches women how to get their husbands to do more chores around the house without nagging. At the end of the webinar, I do a promotion for Husband Rehab. And so I have this webinar playing 24/7. Anyone can access it at any time. And so Husband Rehab.
How do they access the webinar?
You can go to my website, melissamcloud.co.
Okay.
And you can click on my free webinar. It's front and center in my website on how to get your husband.
I will put that info down below so people can check it out. I'm sure there's going to be
whether
some
or not
awesome
you do
tips.
Husband Rehab, you definitely learn a lot about communication in a modern partnership. And that's how I've been selling the course. So now women that see my webinar may or may not sign up for the course. And that's how I decided to not do a launch, but still get my signature price.
Melissa, sometimes people get really, really focused on what everyone else is doing. Like you have to do it this certain way. But I found when you really follow your intuition and your inner compass, it really manifests in the perfect way. Like you just kind of backing off and being like, okay, I'm not going to really push this. You could have probably driven yourself to complete mental breakdown trying to make it happen. But why?
Yeah, I had one mental breakdown was enough. Dealing with a one round of therapy for 2019 was enough.
That was a bombing. That was a bombing. You deserve to have a mental breakdown. You are a victim.
I know. I don't
bombing.
Self-induced.
So crazy.
I feel like a lot of it comes from this self-induced pressure, and I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a launch that made $20,000 in 48 hours. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I love that you're being so you're just handling yourself with these beautiful kid gloves and just being so kind to yourself and really just honoring what feels right.
Thank you. Well, what I think is that
beautiful.
when you're beating yourself up, you've got to be out of alignment with who you truly are.
Yes.
So if I was stressing myself out about how am I going to plan a launch at the new year? Oh, I'm not. I'm not going to do it.
All of a sudden, it's not a problem because you're not.
It's okay.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
I love that.
Yeah. So I feel a lot better about it. Yeah. I would say detaching myself from how much money this needs to make has just been total freedom. It's okay.
You know, I found the same thing. I used to be so stressed about, well, I'm raised in an Asian culture. Okay. So if you're Asian out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's like these markers that you hit that determine your worth. You know,
appearance,
career markers, advancement, income. Like there's just so much, right? So much pressure. And it took me a long time to unpack all of that because I'm not that, you know, and to find worth within myself, but
and
not
to still be like our own definition of success.
Right. To know that I am a successful person, not because of how I look or from people looking at me, but just internally, I know that I add value to the world, you know, and that was a huge game changer.
This is such a conversation. This is why you're going to be the first mom I feature on my monthly mom.
I can't wait to be on your show. That
I work with, they go through this devaluation because they are, I call them achiever moms. Like you're not going to be in the trophies if you're not a mom that's up to something that wants a better life for yourself. You would never end up in a group like this.
Right.
And the women that are now stay-at-home moms, they go through that. They have to get over that. They don't think they're contributing as much when they don't earn a paycheck. Right. And often they used to. And so now
but their value is so huge because, oh my God, they are literally running a household, getting kids to 5 different, you know, travel team practices. They're making travel plans, planning vacations, doing homework, cleaning, walking the dogs. I mean, their job is like they are CEOs of their home, you know? And
right, but it's not value.
But they devalue themselves.
Even though we say they still don't think that. And that is such a conversation. I love the quote Mother Teresa said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Yeah. And I would take it a step further and say, go home and love yourself.
Yes.
Because it all starts with you. It all starts with you. You have to love yourself in order to be able to share that and fill your cup so that you have all of that to give. But what typical moms like myself did when my kids were home, I was so good at just taking myself down, just knocking myself down, that negative. Man, God, look at them over there. They got their shit together. Their kids are like, they've got good haircuts and they're dressed and pressed and they're looking damn good. You know, we're looking for matching shoes and I'm kind of like groping around, you know, trying to cobble this together and get everyone where they need to be with all the right gear, you know. There's always this little element for me of just not quite being enough, you know. To top it off with the Asian gene, and then I also was raised Catholic, so you have guilt on top of all that other shit, and you're just like, it was like the trifecta, man. I had to really I had a huge shovel. I had to dig myself out of that hole. It took me years. But
well, congratulations to you.
Thank you. I made it. I made it out.
Yeah.
You did too. You're doing a great job with your kids. You're
Thank
giving them
you.
such a great foundation. And I think, you know, that doesn't come easily. There's a lot of inner work that takes place. I know that, do you still practice yoga out
Gosh, I was
there?
just thinking about yoga, all the self-inquiry. I don't in a studio. I've gone to a handful of classes in the last year since we moved here.
Yoga was a
But
big
I do a
part of
lot of
your
yoga on
life
my own.
when you were here in Houston, Texas. Yoga was
It
a
was a
big
big part of my
your life.
family life even. I mean, our whole family had memberships at the yoga studio. We could walk or ride our bikes there, and we were there all the time, and just loved it, loved it. So I'm so glad that, and I've been practicing yoga now for almost 20 years. So that was a couple years of my yoga
20
practice.
years.
Most of my yoga is done at home. Yeah. I mean, I'll drop into
Wow.
it all the time. Yeah.
That's impressive.
So well, thank you. On and off, but I was introduced to it almost 20 years ago. I was 21 and I'm
What drives
40.
you, Melissa? I love you so much. You are such a phenomenal woman, but you are so inspiring.
Thank
And I'm
you.
just curious. I mean, there's something magic about you. What is that spark that keeps you going and lights you up every day?
I'm learning how to receive compliments. Thank you. I received that. Thank you for saying that.
Heartfelt.
Yes, thank you. I know exactly what drives me, and I am definitely not interested in living a mediocre life. That's almost like a fear of mine. So it's often not the pleasure of being remarkable or being a success, whatever that looks like to you. It's almost the fear of being average and knowing I can do so much more is a bigger driver for me.
Wow.
And a woman I follow on social media, her name's Sarah Blakely, and she founded Spanx, and I've done private coaching with her as equally impressive husband, Jesse Isler, who's also an entrepreneur. And Sarah talks about being born in the Western world. In the time she was born, it was such a privilege. She had opportunities her mother and her grandmother didn't have, although previous generations have paved the way for girls growing up today.
Of course.
And she wanted to have an idea that would change millions of women's lives. And I just think that's so
incredible.
Like thinking about that, like you are changing lives. I have the potential to change millions of women's lives.
Yes, you do.
Simple message of the message I'm running with now in the trophies and in my husband Rehab product is like, you can single-handedly change your marriage. Like that's something I shared with you last time. And you said, well, that's provocative. You know, it is, because we're taught marriage is 50-50, and women today life is so demanding. Our husbands need to meet us halfway. Well, marriage doesn't work like that. It's how are you ever going to draw the line down 50-50? And most relationships aren't exactly like that. But if you can take 100% responsibility for your marriage, and there isn't addiction or abuse or betrayal involved, because I don't think everyone should be married, but if you marry the right guy, but it's not what you think it should look like, why don't you take 100% responsibility for changing it? That's like the message I want to spread right now. And in doing that, you have to practice self-love. You have to practice self-care. You have to connect with your femininity. And women now it's so awesome how masculine we can be, because we can run companies and make money and have muscles and do all these things that our moms and brothers didn't do. But we do have to reconnect with our feminine side if we're going to have this just awesome marriage. And so that's like my message right now that I'm running with. And I know that it's going to evolve to other things, but
I feel like too, when you change yourself, when you work on yourself, when you love yourself, there's just a ripple effect. It's going to change the people around you. You know, they're going to kind of get on board and train up with you, or it's going to be a shit show. So one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to be like, okay, let's, you know, as you change, you're alchemizing and changing the energy that's going out to your immediate family, your nuclear family, and then also friends. You know, people, we impact a lot of people just by showing up in the world. And we don't realize that. So we start unpacking all those things and doing all this inner work and taking your programs, Melissa, and taking your messages to heart, or focusing on inviting in real motivational or inspiring or uplifting content and people into our lives, there is a huge impact. You're changing not only that woman's life, but her relationship with her husband, how they parent, their relationship with their kids will change when their relationship changes. I mean, there's just a huge domino effect, or ripple effect, I should say, right?
Totally. And like the kids, I definitely, and I say this in the beginning of all my webinars, all my coaching, all my, my course, not everyone should stay married. There's definitely situations that I just shared that it's not immediate separation is the right answer, whether or not you get divorced down the road. But if you can raise kids in a happy, healthy home with a model for a marriage that's healthy, why not? Why not try to make that happen? Why not try? Why not try to make that happen?
And you're also giving them tools. You're giving them tools to take into their relationships. Mm-hmm. We're modeling everything for the kids, right? So the healthier you are, the healthier your relationship is, the more of a solid foundation the kids are going to have to springboard from, right?
Yeah. And, to go back to your question about yoga, the yoga studio that Wendy and I know so well in Houston, Big Power Yoga, shout out. So much self-inquiry. And my husband got so much out of the participation too, about just being real with who you are and sharing it with the world. And we were recently out to dinner with one of my girlfriends who happened to be in Colombo here, where I live in Sri Lanka, for work. And I was explaining about husband rehab. And I go share so much of my own marriage and the trials and tribulations that we've had and the roughest patches that we've had, which inspired me to change my marriage single-handedly and also create this course. And she went, whoa, and looked at my husband, Pat. So how was that for you to have Melissa out there talking about it? And he was like, oh, it's no big deal, because he's so transformed by the work we did and all this self-inquiry as part of practice.
And you also realize that you're helping others by sharing your story. There's so many people who are not willing to be that transparent. So that is awesome that your husband's on board with that, because you're going to be able to help so many people by saying, hey, listen, I've been through this, and this is how we work through things.
I agree. But don't you think it's easier than always having to look perfect and like act like you're always like everything's fine, perfect couple, no problems here.
Right.
Like, you can't keep that up. Like everyone knows you go through your own shit in your life.
We all do.
It's easier to say this was our rough patch.
I'm actually a recovering perfectionist, so I'm so dialed into that story. Like, oh my God, I was such a great chameleon, master chameleon.
Isn't it easy to see why you chose to be an Asian woman born? It's like
you got right? All this work. My soul contract, it's like, let's really set yourself up for success here. You're going to be born into a Catholic Asian household, and you're not going to feel like you matter for the first 50 years of your life. Good luck.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, let's unpack all of that. I spent a few years on a therapist's couch, I will admit, and thank God she was so patient with me. I when I went to therapy the first day, I was so type A, right? I was just like type A, like, all right, we're just gonna knock this shit out. I had my bullet points. I had my legal pad. I was like gonna go in. I even, to save time, so I'm like, I'm not gonna spend 5 sessions like hashing this shit out and telling her my background. I typed it all up. I just handed her like the notes. I'm like,
here's
the cliff
your
notes
work for our therapy appointment. You'll need to read this.
Here's the cliff notes. We should bang this out in 2 sessions.
I'll be your best client. I'll be your best client. I'm gonna
I'm good. I'm like, top notch here. I can bang this out, years later. I'm still like unpacking all this crap, trying to deal with my shit. I can laugh at myself now, but that's what happens. That's what happens when you're a, perfectionist.
Right.
You're like, oh, I don't do failure or vulnerability.
Well, did you read the Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother or Tiger Mom? Because
No,
you
was
were
that
raising
good?
boys. I haven't read it, but it's a
Mm.
really provocative parenting book about an Asian mom that has the highest standards for her kids. You know, they don't do play dates, they don't do
Oh
slumber
God.
parties, they practice violin or they learn
Yeah.
Mandarin or they get A
Yeah.
pluses in school
Yeah.
and they're only going to be the best,
I
you know.
wasn't that bad, thank goodness. But I'm sure my kids would say I scarred them in some way. I'm sure I did, because I was just so like, oh my God, you guys. Actually, they actually were the exact opposite. Like the more I pushed, like the more they pushed back. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
I didn't turn out Asian perfection. It was just like that was part of my lesson. To like, you know what? Love people for who they are, accept people for who they are. You know, and just allow my kids to be who they needed to be.
Yeah.
And now I'm really, really 100% about that. It's like, hey, you do you, man. I don't have an agenda. It took me a long time to get to that spot, you know, where I was like, cool with it. Like, it's your life, whatever. Come have dinner. I give unconditional love and I feed everybody. That's my that's what I do as a mom. I'm like, come by, talk, let's walk the dog, you know, let's get some food, let's go out, you know, there's no pressure.
Yeah.
And I think just loving your children unconditionally is the biggest gift you can give them, because most parents are trying to compensate for something in their lives that they didn't achieve, or they want to be able to have that Facebook post that said, oh, my kid just got their PhD, or oh, here's my kids' wedding photos, you know, like life is so glossy and so perfect and my kids are so perfect. And it's like, why don't we just let our kids be who they are and be real and authentic and live the life that they're meant to live, instead of live the life to make us happy. I think
I'm
that's
definitely
really
going through that right now with my daughter. My husband and I are such sportos, and we just assumed our daughter would be athletic just like us, and she does yoga and she does dance, and we want her to be like on the soccer team and on the swim team, and she has no interest. So it's a hot topic in our household right now.
I'll tell you what
kids do, and what do you let them choose?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, they really thrive when you allow them to be themselves. That's the truth. They really thrive. And I think it's good to expose kids to different things, because a lot of times they say no, but they don't even know what they're saying no to. So I think it's good to expose kids to a lot of different things. But, you know, I'll give you an example. When younger son's a classical guitarist, and he went to this really phenomenal music school in New York. And I didn't have an opportunity to study abroad. So that was like a bucket list of mine for my kids. I wanted to send him to Spain. I wanted to send him to study, you know, or go to some prestigious study abroad program for classical guitar, you know. And of course, working a European trip for myself, there's always that angle, right? Like, I want to justify my European vacation. And every year I'd say, hey, you know, did you check in to study abroad? And at first it was kind of like, yeah, well, I'll get around to it. Yeah, I'll get around to it. Well, junior year rolls around. He goes, Mom, he finally just like sat me down and said, Mom, that's your dream, not mine.
Oh, good for him.
And that was such a learning moment for me, right? My gosh, how many times have I been pushing my dream on my kids instead of allowing them to be who they need to be? How many times are we pushing our agendas on our spouses, wanting them to be who we want them to be, instead of allowing them to be who they are, which is why we married them in the first place.
We forget.
Right?
Yes.
We totally forget. So I'm all about really allowing people to be their authentic selves and letting them know that that's beautiful and magical and that they're enough, you know?
Right. That's what I want my kids to like know me for when they're older, is like, my mom loved me so much no matter what.
Yeah, because I think so many people they think they love their kids unconditionally, but it's very much conditional. As soon as you're like having struggles or not making straight A's, or, you know, get busted smoking weed or whatever you're doing, all of a sudden the parents are a little disgusted and don't love them as much because they're not hitting these markers, you know?
Yeah.
But that's kind of when kids need you the most, is when they're struggling or kind of messing up or whatever. That's when you really need to show up for people in
Yeah.
general, right? That's when we really need to show up with an open heart and love people and
Yeah.
help them to get back on their feet or
Mm-hmm.
help them to feel better about themselves. That's just my perspective, you know?
Yeah.
But that's often the one time when people turn their backs on others who are struggling. They don't want to, like, that's kind of uncomfortable, or I don't really want to deal with that. I just want to deal with the good stuff.
Yeah.
But life isn't 100% the good stuff, you know,
No.
as
And
you
I think
found
as
out, you
moms,
know.
you have to risk. I think it's easy to blame the parents for how the kids are behaving or how the kids are turning out. And as moms and dads, we need to be okay with that. Like, we need to be okay if whatever they're going to think, whatever of me, because my kid does A, B, and C. I think that's where the fear is from. Like, if my kid gets busted for smoking weed or whatever, what are they going to think of me? You know, I think we have to
detach from that.
Like,
yeah, it is what it is. And what I really came to also was, like, I realized that all the things that were such challenges in my life were my biggest growth moments. That's where I really grew as a person. So, you know, it's just another growth moment. It's just another opportunity for growth. When your kids go through their stuff and they mess up or they get whatever, something doesn't go their way, or they get in trouble or whatever it is, you know what? That's another growth moment. And I'd rather my kids have those and grow as human beings and souls than live this immaculate and perfect flatline life. This Facebook perfect life where everything's a glossy photo and a selfie with a cocktail and a sunset. That's not real life. It's just not.
Now we've been around long enough where we all see through it anyway.
I mean, yeah, we did do a nice selfie on the beach though, Diamond Head. You and I last summer.
Spoken from two women who chill in Hawaii. Yeah.
Okay, we're guilty of that one photo, but that was authentic. We were having a great time. But anyways, there's so much happening in the world right now. I think we really need to dig deep and focus on love, loving ourselves, connection, don't you?
Agreed.
And you're seeing so much of the world being in Colombo. I know you have such an incredible group of international friends. What's that been like coming together with this international community and meeting women of different, backgrounds, cultures?
You know, I've moved so many times that I know you just have to put yourself out there and be the first person to say hi and introduce yourself and go to the events. You never know which one's going to be a bus and which one you're going to make a connection. But I do all the things and it's been really easy to connect with the Americans. There's a pretty big American community here with the embassy. Not many Americans outside of that. They work for the embassy or the foreign service or the military, their husbands do, etc. But our kids, my son last year was at preschool with where a lot of the other American preschoolers were. So I was able to connect with them.
That's awesome.
They've been really warm and welcoming and include Patrick and I in a lot of their events.
Oh, that's so nice.
The Halloween party and we had Thanksgiving with a bunch of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's been really great. And then I'm in the International Expat Association, which is a international association all over the world. And so expats in different cities all over the world will get together and they do a lot of philanthropy and it's monthly meetings. And
awesome.
So I go to that to meet a few people, and I go to a CrossFit gym, which is not mostly expats, it's mostly locals, but there are definitely a lot of expats there that are into health and fitness. You know, health and fitness wave has not hit Sri Lanka like it's hit the Western world.
Right.
So Westerners will gravitate towards a place like that. So I have met a lot of expats there too. I would say through my daughter's school, I've met more locals, although a lot of the kids there are, one parent is Sri Lankan, one parent's a foreigner, but most all of them have Sri Lankan passports. So I'd say it's been a good mix, but there's definitely not time to get into this right now, but there's a caste system here in Sri Lanka, not like the Indian caste system, but there still is a caste system. And because of the socioeconomics, it's a very poor country. It's a lot easier for me to make a connection with an expat than it is with a local. So I interact a lot with locals. Everyone I know hires locals. I have a helper, I have a driver, but my friendships have come from the expat community for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a different culture, isn't it? Different way of living, different mindset.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
You know what I've learned though is like women run the world.
yes, we do.
Women run the world. The women here are very industrious. The women, so I have a helper. She comes in Monday through Friday and she helps me out with things like cleaning and shopping and cooking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
She'll watch my kids if I need to run out to run an errand.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't do any of that at her own house because her mother-in-law does it, because she's the breadwinner for the whole family. So
what?
Our family employing her, she is the breadwinner for her entire family and her extended family. Her husband also works, but he drives a tuk-tuk. She makes a lot more money.
Oh my
so
gosh.
At home,
are you serious?
She lives with her in-laws, and so her mother-in-law does all of those things for her, including watching the kids, etc., cooking, cleaning, all that. And my friend that I mentioned I was able to spend time with is here. She works in the clothing industry, and she was talking about the factories. So many clothes around the world are made here in Sri Lanka. There's factories all over the island. And who's doing the work in the factories? The women. And not most of the tea, but a lot of the tea drunk around the world, it's from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is the second biggest exporter of tea in the world, which is amazing. It's as big as Ireland. There's only 22 million people here in the whole country.
Incredible.
And we're one of the biggest exporters of tea.
Wow.
Who picks the tea? Women and girls. It's just a sad thing. 12-year-old girls and up, these women are not like educated. It's a sad thing, but it's like women run the world.
It's so true. And your worldview has expanded so much from being able to live in this country. How long do you guys think you'll be there? How much longer?
Up in here. So many factors. Your husband's in oil and gas too. Mm-hmm. There's just so many factors.
Yes, he is.
If we had to predict the future, I would say 1 more year.
Wow. That's
which
incredible.
would be about a 2-year assignment. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, but oh my gosh, it's been just so amazing. I mean, I'm looking out at the Indian Ocean and all this construction happening. The developing country means things are being developed. There's infrastructure going up. I'm looking at a high rise, an apartment building, a mall, a new hotel. I mean,
wow.
Seeing change in just our short time here. It's just,
that's incredible.
It's amazing to be a part of it. It is incredible.
Wow. Melissa, I'm so excited that you manifested this. You manifested this. I remember.
Me too. I wanted to live abroad.
I was sitting with Melissa, and that was one of her goals. And she was trying to figure out, how am I going to make this happen? And I remember you and I talking, and you're like, I don't know, maybe we can just sell everything and just travel with the kids, and we'll take it.
That's how I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, but you got something even bigger gifted because your husband got this job opportunity. So the company relocated. You got everything in such an incredible way.
I couldn't have planned it better.
Right?
You are right.
Sometimes we have to be careful about what we're planning for ourselves because they might actually be limitations. Right? Sometimes
there's that saying about leave the how up to the universe. It's like we shouldn't be trying to make all the plans. You have the end result in mind, and then let the universe.
Or even have a more open-ended goal.
Yes.
Like, don't be like, I want to make this amount of money. Maybe the universe has all this abundance coming to you, but you're like putting a ceiling on your possibilities, right? Or your opportunities. I don't know. I feel like you have to really think about that. And I'm so happy you got this incredible opportunity. It's been fabulous.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Melissa, this time just flew by. Whenever I talk to you, it's like
it always does.
Blink of an eye. But do you have any advice you want to share with our listeners for the coming?
Gosh, if I had to promote this call, I would say it's definitely about self-love and unconditional love. Yes. And then let the universe make your dreams happen. So I would probably say something like that.
Believe in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Believe it's possible. You are the shining example of having things just manifest in beautiful and unexpected ways. So
You too. It makes
thank
me
you.
excited to see what is going to happen in 2020. Like
Oh my gosh.
I can't even believe I can't even imagine what's going to happen. It's just going to blow me away. That's like the excited anticipation I have about 2020.
I know. We should have like we talked at the beginning of the year. We should talk again at the end of the year, and we can
check in.
talk about all the magic stuff that we're creating or that the universe drops in our laps.
I'd love to do that.
It'll be so fun.
Yes.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for joining me today. It's always such a pleasure having you on the show.
Likewise.
And to my listeners, love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a fabulous year. Set up your goals. Get real clear about your authenticity and who you are and what your values are. And have an amazing day. Go out there and love yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye.